In Ukraine, a crowd is enjoying a concert at an opera house when suddenly a group of masked men appear on stage and start smashing musical instruments while shooting people. Soon after, Ukrainian special forces arrive with a group of CIA agents, including John. His team rushes inside with a clear mission: rescue an American VIP and a special package. Wearing fake uniforms, John's team blends in with the special forces as they hook up gas tanks to air ducts to put everyone on the main stage to sleep. The team then begins searching the VIP booths, and John finds his target, so he quickly takes out a few guards before telling him the password to confirm they are allies. The shooters come down the hallway, so John grabs the man and they use a rope to jump out the window. The VIP then sits among the sleeping people to pretend to be a stranger while John joins the team, only to notice a Ukrainian agent planting a bomb. John tells one of his men to guard the VIP while he retrieves the bomb and runs to the locker room where his contact has hidden a special package. After finding the metal box, he runs to the maintenance room to find his team and the VIP man, who tells them about a secret tunnel. One of the agents changes clothes with him as part of their cover. While most of the VIP escort team pass through this tunnel, John and his undercover team return to the main room to collect the remaining bombs. Suddenly, a Ukrainian soldier pointed his gun at him, and to John's surprise, the hole in the ground disappeared and the bullet that caused it flew back, killing the soldier and piercing the gun of a new man. The guy quickly left and John noticed a red thread on his backpack. John then put all the bombs in a bag and threw them on the front seats before running with his teammates towards the entrance, leaving the opera house just before the bomb exploded. The duo got into the back of a truck and John's teammate was immediately shot in the leg because the Ukrainians saw that he was not a good guy. A while later, John and his friend were tortured in the railway yard for information. The Ukrainians took the poison pill that John had hidden in his clothes, but his friend still had one left. John falls to catch her in his mouth, quickly bites her, and passes out. Sometime later, John wakes up on a medical bed inside a sailing ship. A senior CIA officer explains that the capsule never contained cyanide, but only a sedative. It was just a way to test John's loyalty to his country. John has now been selected for a secret mission, but the only information they give him is the code word Tenet. When a ferry carrying mechanics passes by, John pretends to be one of them and sneaks onto their boat so he can get back to the mainland. After stealing a car, he goes to the city lab and meets Laura, who recognizes the password. Laura explains that they are trying to prevent World War III and that it could be worse than a nuclear holocaust. Laura then gives John an empty gun, and when he fires, a bullet goes into the gun. Laura also throws a ball into her hand and explains that she studies upside-down objects. These things have reversed entropy in the future and travel back in time. John also throws a ball into his hand and Laura records it to show her the video, pointing out that from the ball's perspective, he dropped it. John practices with the reverse gun while Laura tells him that all the objects she studies are sent from the future. They find all sorts of parts from complex machines, indicating a catastrophic war is about to happen. John wants to know who is selling the reversed weapons and travels to Mumbai, where he meets British agent Neil. Together, they hatch a plan to infiltrate the home of a dangerous arms dealer. That night, the duo climbs to the roof of a nearby building and uses a bungee cord to make a huge jump, landing on the wall of the dealer's house. They run and sneak out onto the balcony, where they quickly take out a group of guards before launching themselves at the dealer. John holds him at gunpoint while he questions the man about the reversed bullets, but the man's wife, Priya, knows about Tenet. She informs him that the arms dealer is a Russian oligarch named Andrei, who knows how to communicate with the future. Soon after the police arrive, Neil and John jump from the same building using the same rope. In London, John has lunch with a British Secret Service agent. The man explains to him that the best way to get closer to Andrei is through his wife, Kat, and his art gallery. Kat authenticates a fake Goya made by her friend Thomas, and Andrei buys it. But when he discovers the truth, he begins blackmailing Kat into becoming his partner. The agent gives John a new fake Goya so he can go on a date. John then meets Kat and shows her the painting and says he got it from Thomas. They end up having dinner together and Kat explains that she didn't know the painting was fake when she authenticated it. Andrei abuses her and Kat is desperate to escape, but they have a son and she can't leave him behind. Kat also reveals that Andrei bullied Thomas, so she knows John is lying. John promises to get back the drawing Andrei used to blackmail her if she dates his husband. Suddenly, Andrei's thugs arrive and take Kat away. John attempts to leave 444 through the kitchen and finds more thugs, but he has no trouble defeating them all in a matter of minutes using random kitchen items. The next day, John goes to Kat's son's school. Kat informs John that the draw is taking place at a free port in Oslo, where Andrei's company operates without being detected by the law. Soon after, Neil shows up at the free port as an interested businessman and during his visit learns that in the event of a fire, the vault's inner doors will revert to their factory set state, making them easy to remove. However, the oxygen in this chamber will be sucked out because the company uses gas instead of water jets. John and Neil agree that the best plan is to crash the plane into the free port to trigger the lockdown. They hire a driver named Mahir, who brings his own team. The duo arrives at the Freeport posing as businessmen and pretend to want to leave something in a safe, so an employee takes them there. Meanwhile, Mahir's team puts a group of sleeper workers in charge of the plane. As Mahir moves the plane forward, his men drop hundreds of gold bricks to distract onlookers and fool the police who are coming. As the plane accelerates, the group sneaks out and crashes into the building, causing a massive explosion. Gas escapes from the safe and the staff immediately flee. Neil and John hold their breath as they take out the tools they hid in their briefcases and pick the lock to open the door. They move around the vault picking different locks while trying to stay one step ahead of the gas station. Eventually, they enter a special hallway that leads to Andre's private bunker, where they pass through a blue door and a red door. The duo find themselves on opposite sides of the same room, separated by a bullet-riddled glass wall. On the ground, John notices a pile of guns and realizes that this hasn't happened yet. Suddenly, a thick revolving door swings open on both sides and men in SWAT uniforms appear. Neil is only pushed as the guy runs away, so he follows him. Neil tries to jump on the man and take off his helmet, but is shocked by what he sees. At the same time, the other soldier attacks John and they fight while the attacker repeatedly calls the upside-down weapon in his hand to get bullets from the glass. The man is moving in a rather strange way and John realizes that he is upside down too. After several struggles, John overpowers him and prepares to shoot, but Neil comes to stop him. John tries to ask for information, but the door opens and the upside-down man slides back in. Outside, the plane's engine fails, causing a second explosion. Paramedics arrive shortly after, so Neil and John pretend to be unconscious. The next day, John meets Priya again. She explains that the floating door must be a reversing machine called a revolving door. This technology has not yet been invented. Someone sent it to Andre from the future. The opera terrorists are sent by Andre, who wants to take the plutonium from the metal box John saw. The plutonium is now in the hands of the Ukrainian forces, who will be shipping it out within a week. John wants to kill Andre, but Priya tells him to wait until they figure out what's going on, as it seems the present is under attack from the future. French later, John meets Kat and tells her that the painting was destroyed, so she must now arrange a meeting with Andre. That night, John is invited to a dinner party and ends up meeting Andre, who assumes that John is having an affair with Kat. He threatens John and signals the guards to take him away, but John mentions the opera and Andre agrees to meet privately the next day. In the morning, Andre reveals to Kat that his men recovered the painting before the fire reached it, so it still has power over her. They then set sail with John, who shares his knowledge of the plutonium canister to convince Andre. During a sudden turn, Kat lets go of Andre's safety rope, causing him to fall, but John needs him for the plan and dives in to save him. Later, on Andre's yacht, John gives Kat a gun so she can protect herself. He and Andre then discuss the plan to steal the plutonium. Andre shares that he grew up in a war zone and worked to recover plutonium from scattered nuclear warheads. Inside a very special drum, he finds several gold bricks and a few pages of instructions with his name on them. With these instructions, he became the successful man he is today. That evening, Andre threw things at Kat for what she did and was about to hit her, but Kat pointed out that her screaming would make John want to save her and Andre would have to kill him, so Andre stopped. Just then, a helicopter lands on the yacht and the workers take out a very large heavy package. John sneaks in to watch Andre open the package and finds inverted gold bars inside. One is missing and an employee reveals that he has it, so Andre beats him to death. A guard then finds John and beats him before taking him to Andre, who is now suspicious of him but still honors the deal. He gives John some gold and tells him not to contact him again until he has the plutonium. John convinces him to let Kat make the deal when the time comes. On the day of Plan S execution, Andre takes Kat to a warehouse where they test her reverse weapon. Kat worries about and Andre yells at her, scaring her into revealing her gun. Andre immediately responds by beating. Meanwhile, John and Neil follow the plutonium truck surrounded by S-security vehicles. Andre provided a team to surround the truck with other large vehicles, including a fire truck. Disguised as a firefighter, John climbed the fire truck's aerial ladder while the other vehicles began ramming the safety vehicle to stop them, trapping the main truck between them. Andre's men also blocked the truck's radio so he could not call for help. The ladder moved and placed John on top of the truck, where he used a low explosive to blow a hole in the roof. He jumped into the truck and opened the safe door, eventually taking the suitcase containing the plutonium canister. He then steps outside just as a police car starts following them, but Andre's men shoot at him to stop him. John is now safely back in Neil's car. The duo barely escape but hear a speech played backwards on the radio. A car in front of them suddenly starts moving strangely and they realize that Andre wants to steal the plutonium from John instead of honoring the deal. The oncoming car backs up next to their car and begins chasing them, getting close enough for John to see that Andre is holding Kat hostage. When a silver car on the road also starts backing up, John throws the briefcase to Andre to to save Kat. Andre then jumps into another car with the box while Kat remains in the first car, which is empty. Kat opens the door and Neil drives right next to her so Andre can make a risky jump into Kat's car to stop her before she crashes. Andre escapes, but more of his thugs arrive and open fire. As Neil shoots them, the men sneak in and kidnap John and Kat. John is then taken to the warehouse, which has another room divided in half by a glass wall. He watches as Andre and Kat appear on the other side and move backwards, and as Andre talks backwards, a machine plays back his words in the correct order. Andre threatens to shoot Kat if John doesn't tell him where he put the plutonium canister because he just threw the empty canister at her. John refuses to talk at first, but Andre shoots Kat back, causing John to admit that he hit her in the glove compartment of Neil's car. Suddenly, another Andre appears next to John and starts hitting him, demanding real answers because he knows John is lying. Just then, a group of soldiers enter the room and open fire, so Andre runs away and hides in the turnstile. Now Andre on John's side appears on the opposite side to complete the loop. Everything that just happened happens again, but in reverse to complete the timeline. After Andre leaves, Neil arrives and says that the soldiers are working for Priya and Tenet. John angrily pushes Neil and demands to know how Andre knows their every move, suspecting Neil of betraying him. However, Private Ives explains that what Andre did was a temporal pincer movement. This means that half of Andre's men would advance in time to carry out the operation and then inform the other half of what happened. The second half of this will reverse and complete the operation successfully, creating a self-information loop. The soldiers cannot help Kat because she has a reverse wound, so John wants to take her through the turnstile to reverse the effects, while also pointing out that he can use the machine in the Freeport to return to normal later. The group takes Kat through the machine and they emerge on the other side, seeing each other through the glass. Now that they are in the past, John wants to use this opportunity to try to prevent Kat from being shot. Private Wheeler gives him an oxygen mask and advises him to wear a SWAT uniform that covers his entire body, explaining that he should not see his other self or it will kill them both instantly. John then leaves the warehouse and has to get used to moving in an upside-down world, where everything is upside down for him, from the air to gravity. He gets into the silver car he saw earlier and drives to the scene of the shooting, where he finds the empty suitcase on the side of the road. John puts a microphone on it and hides to watch the suitcase return to Andre as he drives by. John begins to follow as he hears Andre talking to his men, knowing that they checked the glove box and he knows he is lying. As he gets closer, he watches his lover pick up the suitcase and the box of plutonium hidden in the silver car also returns to the suitcase. It turns out that John threw it there the first time. Andre sees this second John and moves his car to hit him, then he ignites the leaking gas tank. A massive fire engulfs the car and an explosion knocks John unconscious. Moments later, John wakes up in the back of a truck with Neil and Kat. Shocked, he learns that because he was inverted, the effects of the explosion were neutralized and it caused him to become hypothermic instead of burning him. John begins to question Neil, who has apparently known all along, but Neil promises to tell him who hired him later. John remembers hearing Andre mention something called the algorithm, so Neil explains that it is a device designed to reverse the entire world and end it. Moments later, the truck stops at the Oslo Freeport, where Mahir's plane crashes. Neil and John cover up in their uniforms and move a sleeping Kat on a stretcher towards the building. As John searches for an entrance, the engine explodes and pushes him through a door, revealing that he is the SWAT member who found his alter ego. The entire fight happens again, but since it is now reversed, it shows John trying to get rid of his alter ego while doing as little damage as possible. They reach the studio and after shooting the glass, John jumps into the machine to return to normal. He appears on the other side and runs away, which is when Neil chases him and takes off his helmet. When he sees John's face, Neil lets him go. John then opens the door for Neil and Kat to get in while he steals a truck. Neil carefully avoids his other self and manages to get into the machine, returning himself and Kat to normal. They escape in the truck and Kat is now back to normal. Sometime later, John visits Priya and tells her that he knows that the box he stole must contain the algorithm. Priya explains that in the future, a scientist creates a method for reversing but is afraid that it will be used for war. So the scientist divides the algorithm into 9 pieces and sends them back in time to protect them. One of these pieces is the plutonium box, and Andre now has all 9 of them. The future military has chosen Andre to destroy the world and sent him instructions on a metal drum he found as a teenager. Priya planned for John to steal the box and deliberately lose it to Andre so that he would give away all the pieces of his plan so that his team could piece it together. John agreed to help them. A few days later, on Priya's ship, John and Neil explained to Kat that they could not kill Andre yet because his death would trigger the algorithm and the end of the world. Kat explained that Andre might be suicidal because he was dying of cancer. If he did not survive, so would the world. John convinces Kat to return to to Andre and distract him so the team can secure the algorithm before Andre dies. French later, John, Neil, and Ives' team returns to Priya's machine and begins practicing fighting that way for the upcoming mission. The helicopter takes the team to the Soviet town where Andre grew up, as they deduce that the algorithm will explode there. Ives explains the plan in detail to everyone. There will be a blue team in reverse and a red team moving forward, meaning they will try to remove the time clamp to transmit information to each other. Neil and Wheeler are on the blue team while Ives and John are on the red team, but they will split up to restore the algorithm. Meanwhile, Kat waits for her alter ego to leave Andre's yacht and sneaks aboard to find Andre. He had prepared the self-destruct poison, so Kat did her best to distract him. Soon after, both teams arrived at the abandoned city and began fighting Andre's army. Each team saw the other team retreating, but they still coordinated well thanks to their watches. Both sides began to lose soldiers as they recklessly fired at each other, and the backfires continued to collapse or assemble random buildings. With both teams' watches in time, Wheeler's team caused a huge explosion that distracted Ives and John enough to sneak inside the underground base. Outside, Neil notices the enemy retreating out of the tunnel and leaving in a helicopter after planting explosives. Worried, Neil splits from his group and enters an old building where he finds the machine Andre's group used. Neil also reverses course and climbs into a truck to warn the remaining team, but it is too late. The tunnel is blocked by explosives. Underground, Ives and John find a closed door and a dead Green Ranger on the other side. John is shocked to see the same red thread on the backpack. At that moment, the soldier that Neil saw appears and leaves the radio so that Andre can monologue with John about the apocalypse while he prepares the algorithm. At this point, the dead green soldier starts moving as he is upside down and is shot by the enemy while trying to shoot John. His falling body pushes the door open and John jumps on Andre's soldier to stop him from activating the algorithm. A fight ensues, and after exchanging a few punches, John manages to push the soldier off the platform to his death. On the yacht, Kat notices her lover returning on a boat and panics, so she shoots Andre and throws him into the sea. She then jumps off as well and is saved by Mahir before she is seen by me. Luckily, John and Ives recover the algorithm and Neil throws a hook into another tunnel to get the duo and the algorithm out just before the bomb triggered by Andre's death explodes. After everything is over, Ives splits the algorithm into 3 parts so that he, Neil, and John each take a part and hide in different locations. After Ives leaves, John notices the red thread and realizes that Neil has been helping him all along. Neil eventually reveals that John was the one who recruited him into the future. In fact, the entire Tenet plan was John's from the start. Neil now has to return to the timeline, where he dies near the door. Sometime later, Priya arrives in London with a bodyguard, ready to kill Kat. However, John shows up and kills the guy first. John tells Priya that they are both working for her future and kills her too. He then watches Kat finally happy with her son. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Leave a comment about your favorite movie, and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.